Welcome to the Node.js Technical Steering Committee meeting for November 6, 2019. We'll follow the agenda, which was posted in issue number 773. First of all, does anybody have any announcements that they'd like to share?
Yes, I have an announcement. I would like to welcome Legenda Cass to the ranks of Node.js collaborators. Congratulations to him.
Thanks.
If you all heard that.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it's great to have him added. He's been helping out across the board, but also on NEPI, which is great. Any other announcements? I guess the one I was going to add is, you probably noticed, but the meeting times will have shifted due to the time changes. I don't know if that means we should reevaluate the times in terms of whether they work for people or not. But basically think about that, and if we think we need to do something, raise an issue, and we can have a discussion to look at that. So moving on to the CPC and board meeting updates. On the board front, there's nothing on the project board for items to bring to the board. One thing of note is that a number of policies, IP, trademark, and so forth have been agreed and will be published soon, if not already. So I'll see if I can find those and post those, but those will be out there and documented. And sort of, I guess, related to that, under the CPC update, there is an existing effort to do like project onboarding for existing projects. So I think Matteo mentioned this last time, but Joe and Matteo will be leading that, and so that may bring in some things that we may need to tweak or so forth. The other thing I'd note is the code of conduct PR is there's a PR to move to stage 3, which would be adoption. So that may move forward soon, although there's some comments and input, which is great, from some of the new projects. So there is some discussion going on that front. And those were the things I could think of. It sounds like Matteo is on a noisy train, so he can't jump in to provide further update. So are there any questions on that front before we move on to the issues tagged in the agenda?
Just one high-level question on the project onboarding in the CPC, in the foundation. Does it follow a push model or a pull model, whether the projects come and ask for to be onboarded, or we ask them based on the perceived value of those projects, etc.?
You mean for the existing projects?
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. For the existing projects in the CPC repo, there's been an issue opened for each of the projects. And we have a checklist, which is the checklist that we use for new projects. Mm-hmm. And the thought is that, well, we should, if that's something we think is reasonable for new projects, it should be reasonable for all the existing projects. And so it's a matter of going through that. In our case, our voting CPC members are the ones who have sort of the point on, understanding what that is and sort of working through it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Matteo was saying that there's a problem with the DCO, which is the most critical thing. No, don't say.
Okay, let's move on to the next topic, which is the Mac OS installer requires notarization to be run under Catalina and beyond. Sam, I think you have the context on that.
Yeah, I don't think we need to bring up a lot of context here, but the issue is that we're a little short on OS X resources. We're trying to get Catalina into our build farm. We're trying to get Xcode 10 installed onto some of our machines. We're trying to get Nearform Mac Minis. The OpenJS Foundation's Mac Minis located at Nearform running, and now there's this new issue. So unless there's a volunteer somewhere who steps up to automating this process, or doing some work to get our release process to notarize executables, it looks like things could go poorly for Mac users in 2020. I just wanted to bring that up to TSC level so nobody has a moment of like, oh my God, why didn't anybody mention this?
Right. So as I ended up understand, if nobody basically steps up to help at this point, today OS X users have to do like a click through or something like that on Catalina to be able to install the Node.js binaries. And we believe that potentially in January, they just won't be able to install them at all. Correct?
Yep, that's my understanding as well.
I think the other thing that is potentially worth getting feedback from this group is that this is going to apply to all binaries. So it's not just like, we come up with a new release and those new releases, it's like the existing releases 8, 10, and 12. So all the LTS releases will suffer the same problem. And one of the considerations was around whether, well, there's definitely risk to changing the build pipelines for older releases. So one question was, is it okay that we'll only try and resolve this issue for the latest LTS release? So if you're on Catalina and you want to install from those pre-built binaries, your only option may actually be the latest versus any of the other ones. And I wonder if anybody has any thoughts or, concerns with that kind of pattern. Would anybody object to only being able to have the latest binaries be installable?
Michael, one quick thing. I think we can start listing MVM on our website as a way to install it on Mac, because with MVM there is no need for any of that. And it's essentially a 10 times better experience overall compared to the installer, from my point of view.
Are you sure it doesn't affect MVM?
I am very positive. I have installed several versions of Node already, and I'm already upgraded to Catalina.
Okay, so
the problem is in the installer.
Right, so it only affects the PKG, is what you're saying, right? Which was a comment I saw in the issue recently. Okay, so it doesn't sound like there's any strong feelings on, fixing it for the latest release or not. Mateo's suggestion of, well, maybe it's if we recommend NVM, and the question I guess would be, do we even need to continue with the PKGs in that kind of situation?
They are handy from my point of view, but it will be handy to fix this. It will be handy to fix this.
Handy to fix it, yeah.
Okay. I don't think we should disrupt that, but we should definitely document it on the website. That, right. Use MVM, please.
Right. Okay. And I guess just to make it clear to everybody who's here and anybody who's listening, Sam put it on the agenda because current course and speed, there is nobody who's going to fix it. And so it's a problem. In January, the PKGs will no longer be usable unless we find a volunteer, and we don't have any prospects at this point. Let's take a note. Anything else, Sam, you wanted to discuss on that front?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Okay, so let's move to the next issue, which is tagged for Node.js admin, which is should we host a Code and Learn in Montreal? This is number 432. Let's see who added this to the agenda. I think
But my
Matteo,
train situation, yeah, but my train situation is still the same. We need to make a call if we want to hold the Code and Learn or not. That
Right.
is that is the tagline, and we need to make a call as soon as possible to start planning properly. So that's
right.
it.
I mean, I think in terms of, I can fill in some of the context and that there is an issue which is open that's been discussing this. There was discussion of moving the Code and Learn up to say the OpenJS level in there. There was, quite a bit of feedback from the previous organizers that, we've kind of run out of tasks. To some extent, it's also a lot of work, and we just weren't ready to do it this time. It seems though that doing it at the OpenJS level, there hasn't been enough interest, and the question back from the organizers is, should we just return the time back to the overall collaborator summit? I don't see that there's anybody in the issues who has volunteered to run it. And we don't have a volunteer, so I guess the thing is, like, either way, I think we should say that it's not gonna happen, or somebody, we need a volunteer today or very soon to be able to say that they'll actually step up and run it.
Rich
So-
also mentioned the problem that our CI is currently not really up to par with running a Code and Learn event.
Okay, so you think there's also some, it's in a more of a red state than normal.
Yeah, so running it on a Code and Learn event will be very troublesome.
How about if nobody volunteers to organize it by tonight, we give the time back to the Collab Summit?
Are there any objections to that?
I'm good with that. So a couple of problems I want to talk about when we are running the Code and Learn at a short notice. If you look at the repo, you can see some of the Code and Learn activities raised PRs, which is still lingering around, not properly closed. So I believe the problem with the current approach is the originators of the topics. If they are not volunteering to run the Code and Learn, what could happen is whoever is volunteering for running this may not be well versed with the topics, and more PRs could get orphaned or unattended in a proper way. So I would say we look at those topics in a more comprehensive manner and run it at a later point in time, maybe for the next year Collab Summit or something. So I'm good for giving back the time for Collab Summit.
Okay, so it sounds like, I'll paste into the issue from our discussion today, discussed in today's TSC meeting. No volunteers. Since we need to provide an answer unless there is a volunteer to run it by end of day today, which is November 6th, we'll let the conference know they can get the time back. But Matteo, I mean, the discussion was that it was going to be at the OpenJS Foundation level. So is it that you can you know, if there's no volunteer at the node level, that you can let them know by the end, if nobody volunteers at the end of the day on behalf of the CPC. And Mateo said, okay. Mateo will let conf know. Yep, end of today. Yep. Okay. Taking a note there. Okay, and then the next issue is the Collaborator Summit. And again, I believe that this is on the agenda from Mateo, and it's there for awareness to remind people that we're having a Collaborator Summit in Montreal, along with the Node+JS Interactive. And that, you know, it's the call for opening, submitting submissions, and I mean, sessions is open, and please submit as soon as you can, so that that helps the organizers. Anything to be added to that? Okay, so let's flip over to the strategic initiatives. Just bring those up. Okay, so we don't have Miles on the modules front. On the NAPI front, I think, you know, we're planning a 2.0 release. We're also working on a workshop for Node+JS Interactive as a good way to help promote and get people ramped up, which is good. Gabriel, anything else that you can think of?
Aside from a new issue with it crashing during process exit, not really. That seems to be an interesting one to fix.
Okay, so I guess that's a late breaking
Yeah.
issue. Okay. Okay, so let's move on to workers. I don't think we don't have Anna. Core Promise APIs, which is Mateo, but I don't think he can talk. New streams, we don't have Jeremiah. Git currents, we don't have Michael. Open Web Standards, Python 3, no. No. I guess doesn't look like we have anybody from any of the other ones. So let's move on. That seems to take us to the end of the agenda. Is there any other topics that people think we should talk about in terms of the public session? No, okay. We'll stop the stream if people can just hold on for a minute or two.